Well, I think it's been harder for the councils themselves in recent years just because of the uncertainty about the review of public administration. But I think if councils have worked well in partnership with their community and voluntary sector, with their private sector locally, then they tend to be strongest rather than councils that are very much trying to stand alone.
The best councils are those which put the value of ratepayers' money at the forefront and try to deliver first-class services at the lowest possible price.
Councils need to be minded of the services that they are providing. Some of them are statutory, and then they've got to have a vision as to where they want to move that community to, and then a bit of innovation to take people to a higher level to make it better than all of the others.
Being from Belfast, I would be Belfast biased in this terms. It's no use having a vision about where you want to be in 5 years if that vision doesn't exist on the ground.
I think there's a big challenge for all of the local councils that they don't really have the powers to do anything at this stage. You know, that's one of the issues about local democracy.
I think, again, working in partnership and working with equality on the ethos of equality makes a good council. I think that you've seen Belfast has come on leaps and bounds from what it was, say, 20 years ago.
All politics, even local politics, it's important to cooperate and collaborate with others. The thought that you can solve an issue by yourself or bring forward something of your own making simply is not practical.
An example of a good council, because you have the main parties all working sort of in a good spirit, where indeed I think the interests, ultimately there's relatively few disagreements, and indeed I think they work in a spirit of cooperation, which means that the interests of the ratepayers are put in place. I think it's important with the council that you have the right level of relationship between the members and the council officers, and that councillors are proactive on the ground.
Encouraging people to complain about bad service that they get, not out of a negative sort of way, but to find actually as a means of getting things to change for the better. So I think it's one of the most important on the list, and I'm delighted to see that I myself was nominated several times for that particular award.
A good local councillor is someone who is determined to get local jobs done.
He is just as open and honest as possible. Well, in Belfast, I think Tierna Cunningham, she's a young woman from North Belfast, she's in Sinn Féin. I think she's been a really, really good advocate. She's been a really good elected representative.
Many examples in all of the different political parties of people who at a community level work really hard, but it is the grassroots job.
On the ground, in three words, on the ground. Being on the ground is very important.
Putting party divisions aside, I'd have to say it's probably Dermot Curran, who is the SDLP councillor for the Ardglass area and Down Council.
There have been some very good young female politicians coming forward recently, and Deirdre Nelson is one of those in Ballymena who's doing a very good job in an area that you may think doesn't have a lot to offer to females, if we can put it like that. It's always been very much a male-dominated council, and I think she's very much making her mark there.
Well, by nature of that role, that is a grassroots role. People who need to be on the ground, who need to know what's going on within a housing estate or within a local community.
So Helen Quigley is a classic good councillor. You're talking about someone who is very close to what is happening on the ground.
The person who I am, the councillor who I admire much in the constituency in Mid-Ulster is one of her your councillor, whom is of a more mature age, but he has a great way with the people, and he's Jackie Crawford.
There's another young councillor from North Antrim, Ciara McShane.
Deirdre Nelson up in Ballymena. I mean, it's sort of hard for me to actually single them out. The councillor job is particularly, it's a different one. Ross Hussey is probably the one that I think is best over in West Tyrone.
Accessible to the public. I like giving my mobile number to everybody under the sun. I just say, there's my mobile number, ring me anytime you want.
I think it would be a bit difficult as party leader if I didn't suggest the names of all my council colleagues within Alliance, or if I named anybody else. But I think it's up to Slugger readers and Slugger bloggers to put together the names of people who they think have done a good job locally. And part of the thing of being local is that everybody else doesn't necessarily know about it.
Well as here in Stormont, we have to look as a unionist to Westminster as well, and I think that some of our peers over there are doing a largely unsung job in relation to some of the work that they're doing over there. And I know Lord Morrow did a lot of work in relation to the embryonic stem cell legislation that was going through the House of Lords. He had a large mailbag and he did a lot of work on it, so I think he should be remembered as well.
I think if you don't need to have anything more than about 4 or 5 hours sleep in the night, you're prepared to work your weekends, you're prepared to have a day which changes from one day to the next.
You're able to make a real difference to real people in that sense, even though it appears to be at the level of more remote legislation.
I think that's one I'd prefer not to judge. There, whether they be peers, MPs or MEPs, they all have their ups and mostly their downs.
I think someone who becomes really an ambassador, not only for his or her constituency, but also generally for the people of Northern Ireland, and how they communicate their message and how they send that message out and communicate it with other people and express it to other people. I think that's all part of the message.
Hard work and dedication to the people, and to let them know that you really care about them and make them feel important when they come into the office, that their problem is something you're absorbing and going to take on board and fight for all you're worth to get a resolution. Now, we're not always successful, which annoys me.
Well, an MEP needs to be a bit of a juggler because they're elected not only for the constituency here, but they're elected to a parliament that is very far away, both geographically in trying to travel there, but also very far away in terms of how long it takes for an issue that's being voted on in the European Parliament to actually take effect here at home.